Welcome back to Work Energy Reflection Notes. My name is Angela Weiss. So, if you've listened to the first few episodes, you've heard me talk about curiosity, Nourish Before Demand, awareness, and choice. But I realized I haven't spent much time talking about why this work matters so much to me. So, today I'd like to share a little of my story. And I do have to tell you, I have thought about this a lot. I did not know how much to share. But I think that it's important to see the progression of where this came from, where it is now, and where it's going. So I've spent more than 20 years working in human resources. During that time, I've worked at all levels of organizations. My first HR job was answering phones in a benefits office at a large organization. From and that led to the beginning of my career because I absolutely loved working in that environment and the work that was being done there. I've spent years helping organizations solve problems and improve systems, support employees, and navigate change. And I genuinely loved that work. But somewhere along the way, I began noticing something. Many of the challenges people experience at work aren't actually knowledge problems. They're energy problems. People know what they should do. They know they should sleep. They know they should move their bodies. They know they should set boundaries, take breaks. But knowing and doing are not the same thing. I also experienced periods in my own life where I was functioning, succeeding, and continuing to move forward while being increasingly disconnected from myself. There were seasons where I was exhausted, seasons where I was carrying more than I realized, seasons where I continued working through incredibly difficult circumstances, including a period in time that seemed like my whole world was falling apart. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 44, and that was intense. And then during that period of time, all of the surgeries, all of the treatments, all of the things that needed to take place to get me back to healthy was a challenge. And during that time, I was also working and trying desperately not to have it impact me. And it did. And I was silly to think that it wasn't. And then during that time, I lost my mom and suddenly, and my husband lost his job and had to relocate to Michigan for a time being where we were apart. So there was a lot of life happening in those circumstances. And what I have come to realize is that I never let myself deal with those things. I kept moving from one demand to the other and made decisions from a periods of fear and just absolute refusal to be anything less than what I was before. And while I certainly don't think that I was less, my body had changed and I wasn't willing to look at it in the same way. And what I have discovered as I have taken a step back from all of that and really looked at the choices that I made, the things that I had done, how I processed, what I didn't process, what I didn't sit with. What I discovered wasn't a miracle solution. It wasn't one life-changing moment. It wasn't a perfect morning routine, obviously. Um, what helped me begin moving toward a healthier place were small adjustments, repeated consistently over time, small moments of awareness. I mentioned in the prior episode Myers-Briggs and strength binders. These are tools that I used to start diving into myself because it gave me some structure to do this honestly, one step at a time, without the overwhelming need to dissect myself and all my flaws and imperfections that I was acutely feeling during this time period. I mean, I lost part of what I considered my identity. And moving through that was hard. And I didn't let myself sit with that. And so, small moments of awareness, really starting to look at myself, my body, and where it was now, not where it was before all of the surgeries, not where I wanted it to be, but where it was, where my emotions were at, where my thoughts were at, all of these things. So I started to find small moments of nourishment, small moments of recalibration. And that's where today's conversations started. And it's just, it matters to me because I didn't know how to navigate these things. And there are some of you who are incredibly strong and beautiful and profound and have your shit together. But I was not at that spot. And I want to be someone to bring some clarity to someone else might be struggling in those times. The one thing that my HR career has brought to my attention is I am not alone. And I am not unique in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We all work in complex emotional circumstances. Some of those things come from our job. Some of those things come from our family circumstances. Some of those things come from our health. But we're all navigating this complexity and this emotional complexity, this landscape that's just sometimes so fucking much. And I'm going to apologize for the language one time because I haven't used too many cuss words in these episodes. But this is emotional for me, and I am bringing my real voice to this, and I want it to be me who's speaking to you and not through something that I've written and polished and rewritten. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. So I started going in deeper into myself, deeper into my work, deeper into my understanding of how other people were navigating these things as well. And it really all came down to me, to energy. And before anyone worries, I am not going down into advanced physics, but I do think that having that middle school science field trip frame is adequate. So when we think about middle school science, the kind of science where we're simply trying to understand how things work, when we talk about energy in physics, energy is the capacity to do work. That's it, simple. Energy allows movement to happen. Without energy, nothing moves. Now, obviously, human beings are more complicated than a physics equation, but I think the metaphor is useful because many of us spend our lives focused on output, the work, the action, the movement, the accomplishment. But we spend surprisingly little time paying attention to the energy required to support that work. What creates it, what restores it, what drains it, what protects it, what renews it. And that's the question that eventually led me to the framework I'm exploring today. And I'm exploring this very publicly, and I want to be very clear about that I am sharing where I have come from, what I have learned, and I am in real time experiencing a lot of what I am describing here. I am still coming to terms with a lot of the things that have happened over the last 5, 6 years. So I want to be very, very real about that. But these are the questions that led me to this. Not just how we work, but how we sustain that energy required to work, required to live, create, and contribute. Because eventually every system encounters limits. That includes our physical system, the systems we navigate at work. Human beings are no different. We are complicated systems with all kinds of inputs and outputs and flows and feedback and all of these loops that we experience on a day basis, whether we are aware of them or not. So I do talk about yoga a lot in all of this, and there is a reason for that too. People often hear about this and they're thinking of stretching or the physical action of yoga, poses or fitness. And while movement is certainly part of yoga, the more profound experience for me was something much larger. Because yoga offered me a framework for understanding the relationship between awareness, behavior, energy, and human experience, what I was navigating. One of the stories that I often tell about yoga, I was just learning yoga when I got diagnosed with cancer, and I had my surgery, and then I was going to physical therapy because I couldn't lift my arms up. Yoga had become one of those things that I relied on to navigate complicated things, and it wasn't available to me, I thought, at that time. And I was going to physical therapy, and my doctor, who was helping me through this, had the unfortunate experience of having a meltdown on the table, because and all he did was ask me how I was doing that day, and obviously I was not doing well. I did not have yoga. I was in pain still. I was navigating grief that I didn't understand to be grief about losing parts of my body, parts of my identity. All of those things were in play. In hindsight, I know that now. At the time, I did not. I just felt weak. I couldn't open jars. I had tubes hanging off of me. It was intense, and I just lost it, and I started cussing and just, I can't fucking do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know my next steps. I can't move. I can't stretch. I can't process this. And he was very kind, and he let me just get it all out. And then he said, "You can breathe." So he may have been talking about the fact that I should be extraordinarily grateful that I was still alive, and there is truth to that. I was alive. It was caught early. It wasn't as intense as it could be. So there's truth to that. And also, in yoga, breath is an entry point. I could not get into downward dog. I could not lift my arms above my head. What I could do was breathe. I could control my breath. So I started thinking about yoga in a deeper sense. The 8 limbs of yoga, if you will. And one of the reasons I love it is because it addresses the whole person, not just the body, not just the mind or productivity, the whole experience of being human. Over time, you'll hear me explore each of these lenses. The first 2 limbs focus on how we relate to others and how we relate to ourselves. They ask questions about integrity, values, awareness, and alignment. The third limb is physical practice, the body, the reality that our physical state influences how we experience the world. Now, I tend to lend myself towards the actual asana poses, but for some of you, when you're focusing on the body, when you're kind of following through and trying to find your own path forward, what you may find the physical aspects might be running, or it might be weightlifting, or whatever. This is, while I am focusing on my journey because it's the only one that I can speak to with authority, everyone else's journey will look different. I am an introvert. Some of you guys might be an extrovert. Some of you might love to run. I can't run. I have knee problems too. So there are things and limitations, and each of us come in a different package. So each of these things will be different. The fourth limb is breath. This was my re-entry into yoga. And it's one of the simplest and most accessible ways to influence energy and nervous system regulation. And I explored breath in a lot. There are several really, really interesting books that someone can dive a little bit deeper. My problem with some of them, however, is that I am not going to go sit on a mountaintop and in my bikini and breathe. It's just not going to happen. That's just not who I am. So some of these more extreme methods is another thing that led me to this path. Like, come on. Not all of us have the physical access to these intense means of utilizing these tools, but we do have the ability to control our breath and to learn how to use it to our advantage. And the fifth limb explores attention and sensory input, what we allow into our awareness, what we consume, what shapes our experience. The sixth and seventh limbs focus on concentration and meditation, the ability to direct attention intentionally rather than allowing attention to be constantly fragmented. And finally, the eighth limb points toward connection, a sense of integration and wholeness that extends beyond performance and achievement. What I find fascinating is that each of these limbs intersect with what modern psychology, leadership research, neuroscience, and organizational development continue to explore today. Different language, similar questions. How do human beings flourish? How do we sustain ourselves? How do we remain connected to ourselves while participating fully in life? So this is, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to accomplish today with this series and with an eventual book and with all of the things that I am doing. It is how to bring forth the lessons that I have learned already and continue to learn publicly. Because at the end of the day, we are not alone. I am not alone. There are millions of people who are experiencing these challenges and find some of the more extreme things that are out there a little bit intimidating at best and just ridiculous at worst. And to find a path forward that is steady and not this massive push for optimization and then this fall off. We meet our goals, we leave it behind, and then we're back again to where we are. That is what has led me to start really looking at nourishment and preparing ourselves for the next demand and creating that scaffolding that we need to continue. This is important to me. This is personal to me. And I wanted you guys to know, if you continue to listen to me, that this isn't just a thing to be popular. Trust me, this is as uncomfortable as I have ever been in my life, trying to do podcasts and YouTube videos and all of this stuff that is extremely outside of my comfort zone. But this is important to me because I see it. I see it in my work. I see it in my interactions with people outside of work. I see it in myself. And it's time that we start looking at our whole system and how that whole system works with the people that we work with and in relationship to the organizations that we work with it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you continue on this journey with me and we can continue this conversation.